he started an apartment complex on fire, and there's a possibility that he wanted to make it look like I did it.
Tell me about yourself.
See, I can't answer the first question already. I grew up in rural Nebraska. I went to college and got a degree helping people, working in the social work kind of field. I'm a mom and a daughter and a sister. He was absolutely charming when I met him. I met him when we were going out. He was working at one of the bars that we went to. And again, when we went into the bar, because he was a bouncer on the outside, he would come in and check on us and make sure everything was okay and that we felt safe. And then I saw him another time when we had gone to the bar again, and then we'd exchanged numbers and we just started hanging out. The relationship changed from just a friendship to a more intimate relationship. It happened very quickly. I felt so comfortable with him. There was part of me that thought, this is going too fast, but because I'd never felt that safe or secure with someone before, I thought, oh wow, this must be the one. This must be the one. And things progressed really quickly. Again, he asked me to marry him way before I expected it to, and I agreed because I couldn't imagine being with someone different than him.
When did you know that things weren't going in the direction that you knew?
That's a hard question to answer, because looking back, I can say there were red flags right away. But at the same time, I think that really sickness in my stomach probably didn't happen until one of our first fights, in which the look in his eyes, I guess that's something that's so important to me, is most people don't get that look in their eyes. And I don't, even if you haven't seen it before, I think you'll recognize that just anger, and people describe, it's like they can't see you, like they're looking through you. And there was an argument that we had that wasn't that serious. I don't even remember what it was about. And it got so scary that I remember like leaving where we were at and feeling just this fear, this sickness in my stomach, and this fear like he was gonna hurt me. And he hadn't ever made any threats about that before. But I just knew in my gut.
Okay.
In which he had choked me, which at the time I didn't realize was a very dangerous thing, even more so than hitting. I didn't have enough knowledge about that. But there were choking incidents and hitting incidents, but at the same time he was so abusive in so many ways, but there wasn't a lot of physical harm that would show bruises, and he would get very arrogant about that as well. And when I left him, it was because I was really scared, and I went into hiding. And my family was so upset with me because I wasn't trusting the church or God. They would give me grief about my lack of faith. They knew that we had been struggling. What we didn't talk about in detail a lot was that I was going to church, but that he wasn't. And yet he could talk about God more than I could. He knew the Bible better than I did, even considering the fact that I was raised in the church. I went to parochial school. And so he was able to do the talk, and he's very charming and very convincing, And he would tell to my parents, she's just being a little crazy, how she can be sometimes. So when I finally left him, I left him once. I think this is important too. I left him once, and then because of the church, because of my family, because of his willingness to then go to counseling, do some more therapy, work with the church, I felt like I needed to go back to him. And it wasn't just my family that pushed me, but I thought that, what is my faith? I need to try this. And I didn't understand at the time who he was or his intentions. And so I went back. But then there got to a point where I knew there was no way that this was going to work out, that this was dangerous. At that point, my self-esteem was so low. I was afraid he was going to kill me. But I thought, if he kills me, he won't kill my family, because he always threatened that he would kill my family or my friends. But I thought, if he kills me, then he kills me. But at this point, I also had a daughter. And it was so concerning to me that he would have rights to her, and that he would abuse her, and that she would have to go through all these things, because I knew how manipulative he was. When I moved out, I did so much planning, and it was hard to pack, because he was there all the time, and I didn't want him to have any clue that I was moving out, because I was so scared. And so he was out of town and for a work trip, and I knew he would be gone for 4 hours, and I took off work. I was petrified. I made sure my daughter was safe, and I had a friend of a friend who was so sweet, who had a pickup truck, and we just moved my stuff. So when I decided to leave, I went into hiding, and I didn't even tell my parents where I was at. And I had been meeting with a lawyer on the side, because I wanted everything to be taken care of. So he was served with papers the day that I left, so that there wouldn't be a question about the custody of our daughter, because she was young at this time, and I wanted everything in place. He was able to access an attorney that the church paid for. At all. After I had left my husband and had already filed for divorce, he started an apartment complex on fire. And so when he got in trouble about this arson, police officers were able to tell me more about his history. He had this long history of abuse of children, of other women, horrible, horrible things, bomb threats. While he was in jail, the church was working at raising funds to get him out of jail, to meet his bail. And this church was a very wealthy church, and they had already hurt me so much, and I was very concerned, because not only was this the best lawyer, but I knew that there were many people who could easily raise $10,000 for his bail. So I went to court to get a protection order, because I thought I at least need to have this in place, even though I knew that wouldn't guarantee my safety. And I got the same judge that I had for the divorce, that he had for his trial. And most people would think that was an advantage, but it wasn't at all. And I remember this so clearly. The court reporter was typing, and the judge looked at her and said, "This is off the record." And I remember the whole courtroom, because there were other people in there waiting for their hearings as well, just got completely quiet. And she looked at me and she said, "I'm going to grant this, but I need you to know that there's nothing that you've presented to me that compels me to do so." And she goes, "I'm very concerned about how you're living, the fact that you even have a job and that you'll be able to keep it. And I'm sure it's affecting your parenting as well. I strongly suggest you get yourself together. And this was me, just a shell of a person, being so scared, coming and presenting this ugly thing that I didn't want to talk about, that I thought, hey, we've already demonstrated that he's capable of arson, which is a really scary crime. This is not just a burglary or something. She knows all this, and she's questioning why I'm scared. She knows. And so I didn't feel like the legal system protected me much at all. I think, but even though it was so awful when that judge said that to me, at the same time, it's kind of pushed me more now towards, oh yeah, look at where I'm at now, and that I could have upset.
Where are you now?
In a much better place. I have done a lot of therapy, and it's been a long time ago that this happened, but I think it still surprises me, even though the time is long and that I've gone through so much therapy, and that I don't have to see him. He's not involved in my daughter's life. That it still is so tough sometimes. And it's said a lot, but I want people to know it's so important that you listen when someone's telling you something and that you just believe them. People just don't make stuff up. I'm very privileged. I'm a white woman. I come from a background that didn't involve abuse growing up. I have great friends. I have friends that work in the field. I think that's so essential, and I don't know how I would have survived without that. I don't have a language barrier. My status is I'm a citizen. There's just so many things that I've seen other people have to struggle with and go through. I had one daughter. I didn't have multiple kids. At the time, I didn't have a mortgage. I could leave. There wasn't this. It wasn't as financially devastating as it could have been. I mean, that's a big thing. Why don't you leave? I mean, think about the complications of that. If you looked and put yourself in their shoes, what's all involved in leaving? And what are you willing to give up? I mean, put your feet in their shoes too. Like, if you think about your own life, what are you willing to give up?